Our gospel lesson this morning, it comes from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 9, verses 9 through 13, and then verses 18 through 25. Verse 9 begins, "As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax collection station, and he said to him, 'Follow me.' And he got up and followed him. And as he sat at dinner in the house, many tax collectors and sinners came and were sitting with Jesus and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, 'Why does your teacher eat with the tax collectors and sinners?' But when he heard this, Jesus said, 'Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have come to call not the righteous, but sinners.' While he was saying these things to them, suddenly a leader came in and knelt before him, saying, 'My daughter has just died, but come and lay your hand on her, and she will live.' And Jesus got up and followed him with his disciples. Then suddenly a woman who had been suffering from a flow of blood for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak. For she was saying to herself, 'If only I touch his cloak, I will be made well.' Jesus turned, and seeing her, he said, 'Take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well.' And the woman was made well from that moment. When Jesus came to the leader's house and saw the flute players and the crowd making a commotion, he said to them, 'Go away, for the girl is not dead, but sleeping.' And they laughed at him. But when the crowd had been put outside, he went in and took her by the hand, and the girl got up. And the report of this spread throughout all of that district." The word of the Lord. I'm curious if you've ever been in or have been a witness to the always awkward occasion of being mistaken for someone else. Someone approaches you thinking you are someone who you are not, or you believe someone else to be someone who they are not. What follows usually is the combination of the deer in the headlights look mixed with the "how do I let this stranger down easy" look. Or maybe you know someone or are someone who is constantly referred to as someone else's doppelganger, which I think is German for "you just have a familiar face." I myself, growing up, often mistaken for the child actor from Jerry Maguire, if you're familiar. A little bit later in life, Patrick Swayze's younger brother, once or twice, so it evens out. And whether you know this experience firsthand or can imagine it or have been a participant, it is uncomfortable to be in this situation, or worse, to make such a mistake. And I wonder if those around Jesus do not have some ounce of that assumption in the first part of our gospel passage. Surely Jesus cannot be calling the person he thinks he is calling. There must be some mistake. And actually, in the verses that follow, in the following scene, Jesus is basically called out on this, questioned for his choice of recruitment. And not without good reason. Tax collectors were deeply, deeply unpopular. Some historians even use the language of local traitors. They were associated with the worst aspects of governmental overreach and oppression, and for the most part carried with them the reputation of either collecting more than what was due for the benefit of this big bad system, or to the benefit of themselves, with very little repercussions usually. So in some ways, they were this embodiment, they were this messenger of powerlessness. And Matthew's presence at the taxing station signified his active role. This is not someone who's considering a career change or shows any signs of embarrassment to be this local representative for Rome, which makes not only Jesus' invitation to Matthew significant, but likewise Matthew's response. Immediately, he leaves everything and follows Christ. Later, as Jesus is sharing a meal, or a more literal translation, reclining among the others, he He responds to his critics, echoing generations of Jewish prophetic teaching. God requires mercy. God requires mercy, not sacrifice. Mercy, not empty ritual. Mercy, not hollow ceremony. Mercy. Adding that it is not those who are well who need care, but the unwell, those who are lacking. Professor of New Testament Studies, Danny Zacharias, emphasizes how this ethos, it is a relational one. Even when the others, or even if Matthew himself were to respond to Jesus, I don't think that I am the person that you are looking for, Jesus rebuts them, saying time and time again, you are exactly the person I am looking for. Follow me. Jesus doesn't intend for Matthew's identity to be glanced over, but instead underscores what God has been telling God's people since the beginning, that there are no disqualifiers from becoming my beloved, for being my beloved, not one, and that every one of us reflect the divine. It is when that we fail to recognize that in others, or even in seasons in our own selves, in which we lose sight of our calling, we loosen our grip on Christ's radical commandments, and also we lose insight into who God is. Jesus is saying to all who are there, I require invitation, not condemnation. That is not for you to do. Your work is to follow me. I heard someone say something this week that really resonated with me, which was that every generation, every people group of every time and place suffers from some degree of narcissism, where we think that the problems of our day are more unique or more complicated than the troubles of yesterday. And this wasn't said to dismiss current problems or to patronize. It was said to be hopeful and encouraging, a reminder that similar, ordinary people like us have endured problems and circumstances and arguments before, and we can too. And this is a topic that the church, with a capital C, has been dealing with since the beginning. Since Jesus is reclining among his friends and those he is getting to know, are tax collectors welcome or not welcome to be your disciples? In order to join the church, are we able to be circumcised or do we not need to be circumcised? Once we join the church, are we able to eat the meat sold in the marketplace or not? More recently for us, the ordination, inclusion, and affirmation of anyone, regardless of gender, sexual orientation, ethnicity, ableness, and so on. These conversations have been taking place. They will continue to take place. And I rejoice that my own faith and the conclusions of our denomination have leaned into Christ's teachings of welcome and mercy more tangibly. And the very next stories that take place in the gospel model this movement even further, revealing that not only our identities, but our actual status, our life circumstances, our socioeconomic places, even our very health, are known and seen and valued. Yet again, they act as an entryway, not a barrier, to following God. I mentioned Professor Zacharias a moment ago. I really appreciate his commentary, which notes the difference between each healing story in verses 18 through 26. I've never read this passage before as a dichotomy, as one healing story that kind of juxtaposes the other. I've only kind of read it as one healing story interrupted by another in order to showcase Jesus' power and ability. But this insight, it helped these familiar stories come alive a little bit more. Danny writes, the second part of this reading, verses 18 through 26, it brings us into two intertwined healing stories: a synagogue leader's daughter and a woman suffering from chronic bleeding. These two individuals stand at the opposite ends of the social spectrum. The synagogue leader is prominent, while the woman ostracized. The synagogue leader is confident enough to walk up to Jesus directly, while the woman desires to move unnoticed. And for both, Jesus responds with equal compassion. Both healings take remarkable faith. Both are restored beyond physical ailment. In the daughter's case, her very life is restored. In the woman's case, her actual living is restored. She's able to be among the people yet again. This kind of restoration, it is holistic. It is all-encompassing. Professor Danny comments, Jesus is good medicine for body and soul. In each of these stories, and all of these stories, we too can use some holy imagination to see ourselves in all of these characters. I contend all of us have had moments in which we feel confident and assured, and moments where we just want to sink within ourselves. Or in Abram's case, he is 75 years old. His habits are ingrained. His life, it is on cruise control at this point. God calls him to leave everything that is familiar. Familiar sights, familiar sounds, land, culture, people, all of it. God says to him, leave from your native land and go to a land that I will show you. And the Hebrew here in verse 1 is lek lekah. Two simple words from the root meaning to go or to walk. It is repeated, and this double emphasis translates as go forth yourself. This could mean you yourself go forth, or you go forth as yourself. Abram is considered righteous because he believes God. And just like Matthew, the tax collector, and the synagogue leader, and the faithful woman, God says, I am calling you, not another, but you. You, as you are enough to follow me. And I will transform you. I will make you, Matthew, a traitor among your own people into my disciple. I will make you, synagogue leader, a believer. I will make you, faithful woman, an active member of the community once again. And you, Abram, you I will make Abraham. And by my hand, you will become a great nation. As mentioned before, we are entering into the ordinary time. We're following Advent, Epiphany, Easter, Pentecost, and Trinity Sunday. Yet we do not come to this day forgetting all the stories that we have celebrated, forgetting the stories of miraculous life and birth, death, and resurrection, even the receiving of God's own Spirit. In these texts, we are able to see the depth and breadth to who God is calling. Thanks be to God, you can even be dead. Feel as if life has been sucked out of you, spiritually done for. Would you believe that even then, Jesus has the power to revive and call out and say to your exhausted bones, you are still mine. I will work with you. I will transform you, not away from who you are, but into what I created you to be. What will be our response? As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax collection station, and he said to him, "Follow me." And Matthew got up and followed him. A woman who had been suffering from a flow of blood for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak. Jesus turned, and seeing her, he said, "Take heart, daughter. Your faith has made you well." Now the Lord said to Abram, "Go forth from your country and your kindred and your father's house into the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing." So Abram went, as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with them. As it was for the faithful before us, may it be so with us as well. Amen.